there is passion behind it, man. Boston has been super mean to me, Bill. Boston radio stations have
now it unravels, Bert. Remember when he was trying to act like he was a man of the people? It's all about him. Go ahead, Dan.
Boston radio stations have done super racist things to my father, who's like cartoonishly Cuban and has an accent. Boston's radio talent has been meaner to him than any city in the union. And so that hits in a personal spot, but all I want to do is have fun with it and continue. Like what
do you mean he's cartoonishly Cuban?
Hang on, I'm gonna hold a little bit. Growing up in Florida, he's just Cuban to me. Meaning, listen to your dad is a little heartwarming to me when I listen to your dad. So that's every dad that played in baseball with us, that taught us baseball growing up. So I do understand what you're saying when you say cartoonishly Cuban. He just is. He's from Cuba, and that's it. That's it.
So let me ask you this: so they took it past making fun of your show, past making fun of your dad, and into, I'm going to say, the usual area of morning radio.
Yeah, I mean, but...
Which has been my experience with so many morning radio shows, the astounding level of straight across the fucking... Bert, am I wrong here? Like, the astounding level of, like, just, like, it's not even, like, hidden. It's not even like, maybe it got better. I'm sure it got better. But I mean, I remember the last time I was doing a big like radio tour. I was on with Donnell and Charlie Murphy, rest his soul. And there were radio stations that only took me. And there were clubs that would take them to the black station and then take me to the white station. It was, neither one of those was Boston. So I'm not defending Boston. What I'm trying to say is that, everybody goes to the Container Store when it comes to fucking racism. They say it's in this big box down in the South and it's up there in Boston. And it's just like, man, well, if you really want to see how sad it is, you should do the road and hit all the fucking, it's an unfortunate thing. Well, I'm sorry that they did that, to your dad. I'm not sorry that, we've been doing so great in sports, though.
It's crazy, though, that you're talking about that. I mean, Charlie Murphy, you're talking about the 90s, right? You're talking, that ain't the 60s you're talking about. That
was 2004, 2005.
Damn. So that's not like, you're talking about something like it's during the civil rights movement, and you're 50 years behind it in the way that morning radio was treating the comedy circuit.
Well, that's what's hilarious about so-called woke white people, is because they are acting like they weren't the white people that weren't hiring people of color. Like a few years ago, like somehow they got rid of all of those white people. And now we're all brand new white people. And it's like, dude, you're in your 40s. Like, I've never heard you talk like this. I've known you for 20 years. I think so much of that is just people branding and covering their own asses. So they can, they do the hashtag Black Lives Matter. They do the whole little care package. Look at me, I care. And then if they see another white person who gets in trouble for shit, they pile on that person, because that's the thing to stick all their shit to and be like, yeah, there he is. There he is. And I think that happens with the city of Boston, which I'm not saying isn't ridiculously racist, but I'm just saying it does tend to catch, it does tend to catch a lot of the attention, it seems. It just seems like...
Certainly you've noticed, though. I'm guessing that you've noticed in this climate of people outraging each other and, scaring your fellow comedians in a way that a lot of them complain about not being able to do comedy. Certainly you've looked around and noticed that there aren't a lot of people doing what you're doing.
But what's funny about that is the people behind that are like white women. It's not black people trying to get white comics, male comics, not to say what it's white women. And they're divorcing themselves from their part in all of this, which is fucking brilliant. I got to give it up to them. The same way you brilliantly lit my fucking fuse, right? The way that they have just divorced themselves from any wrongdoing, and then not only that bit I did on SNL stuck themselves at the front of the line of the first people that need to be paid attention to are them. And I'm not saying this is all white women. I just mean it's the sociopath ones that are looking at this like a power grab.
But did you not notice in doing what you did on Saturday Night Live, did you not notice that was something that others wouldn't try because they're afraid of the flames that have climbed all around this stuff with, being led by the mob and what you're talking about, which is people trying to outrage each other and the competition being between like, I'm going to be morally superior to the person next to me. Like, certainly you went into that.
I'll tell you something funny about that is another thing that people try to do is they're constantly taking quotes from a comic and then attaching their own political ideology to it, acting like they're explaining what you meant. And it's always, more times than not, it's wrong. Not only is it wrong, it's 180 degrees in the other direction, right? So on that one, when I did that joke, this dude wrote this article going, when I did that bit about white women, and the reason why it worked was because he called out himself for being a toxic white male and blah. It's like, that's not why it worked. It worked because it was true. And if you ever saw my position when I told that joke, I didn't have to get to the punchline for people of color. They were laughing during the setup. Then I do the punchline and I would get half the white people. And then I called myself out on that shit to bring white guys like that woke idiot who wrote that article. It's like, I said that for you. I said that specifically for people like you, because I know what you're going to do is then use this thing to try and get more hits while you pretend like you care about the issue. Because I feel like that's another thing that a lot of people are doing, like being outraged, being all of this shit. I like to think that I can hear when it's sincere or when it's tied to like a brand. And I think so much of it is like an algorithm for how you navigate these new waters on a social media asset. All of that shit. That's like that. What was I watching last? They were talking about starving people, and they said if you're, what did they say? If you're experiencing food insecurities, I just want to be in that meeting when they're coming up. You remember when your friends, you'd sit around trying to come up with good band names? I feel like that's what corporations do. When they do, there's people starving. We're eating caviar. Okay, we can't stay there starving. What do you got? Food challenge. Now, if you challenge is old, we burned it out. Food insecurity. Sorry, Bert.
You may have covered this ground. I'm actually curious, Bert. I will talk to you in a second about what it is that I'm doing, but I am curious. I'm guessing you've talked about this, but the specifics of the degree of difficulty of doing that monologue that way in this climate, like what
is nowhere near as difficult to what you're doing now that you've left ESPN. Sorry, Bert. Go ahead.
No. Let me tell you something about Bill. The things we think about Bill, Bill does not think about Bill. I've asked those questions about that. SNL was pretty epic, in my opinion. A lot of things Bill does. I'm a friend of his, but I'm also a big fan of the way he does what we do. And I think I put more thought into what Bill does than Bill does sometimes. I mean, I know for a fact
and that's the genius of what I do, because I know exactly what I'm doing. You think I just go up there and say that shit, Bert?
No, I know, but you don't sit the next day.
Bert, I knew enough to go, you sit right down to my talks. I knew to do that for that douche who was going to write that article.
No, but you're not sitting there going, like, there's no, like, you got the same thing Rogan's got, where it's almost like CTE, where you guys just say, and you go, I'm tapped out. I don't need to see what anyone says. and you dial out of it. And I don't have that entirely.
The last time, Bert, the last time I remember Louis C.K. went on there and he did like, it was rat-a-tat-tat, three things. One of them was pedophilia. One of them was Israel, Palestine. I don't remember what the third one was. And I'm like, good God, this guy's living right on the rail. And so the only other time I thought, I'm like, wow, he's going to do it this way. There had to have been, he might not think about it on the back end, but he has to have thought and deconstructed what are the angles that I can be attacked from on the front end. Like you can't walk into that. You can't walk in totally fearlessly unless you're totally prepared. Totally prepared.
Listen, let me make it very clear. I know for a fact Bill knows what he's doing walking into everything, but Bill has something that Joe has that maybe I don't have, and I say that honestly.
Bert, you're in America, and you're gonna like. It's like, you know, if you're saying it maliciously. And that's the thing, dude. If I went on stage and I said something, I was in a bad mood and I really fucking meant it, then I would, but here's the thing. I would apologize to the person that I said it to. I'm not apologizing to some jerk off who was drinking a cup of coffee and wasn't even at the fucking show.
No, I'm not doing that. About that, Bill. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the way that you can do what you do, and then you're cool with what you did. You're not on Instagram.
Oh, we lost him. I know what you're. Okay, I see what you're saying. No, you have to do that. You can't. I went through the whole reading every comment.
Yeah.
It's just
not
like,
everyone can do that, Bill. Not everyone can do that.
No, this is what I do. I go on, and what I do is I read until I get to the first negative one, and then I just shut it off. And all right, I went, 9 out of 10. That's pretty good. I just do like a survey. But like, listen, dude, if I did something and I just saw like 9 out of 10 was saying that sucked, you're not funny anymore, blah, 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 something like that, after I did something, not after I just said what I said, because now that'll happen, but like after I actually did something like legit, then I would definitely, I would be like, okay, I need to work harder, or I need to steer away from something. I don't know. But
it's interesting to me because, Bill has been doing the Monday morning podcast for what, 10 years now?
No, 14. He's so stunned with 14, he froze.
And I find it
14 years, Bert.
No. I find it interesting. I find it interesting that you've been doing it 14 years. And Dan, you're stepping into that territory where you're in on your own with a sponsor from the back. I'm curious to know the juxtaposition of how you feel now that you're out on your own. You don't. There's no slap on the wrist. It's everything is on you, right? Where Bill's been dealing with that for 14 years. I'm curious to know how you feel about that, Dan.
Well, I wanted to be my own boss, okay? But I think that confidence, the only way that confidence is built is you have to build successes on top of each other. Like, Bill can talk now after having started with at Netflix and doing this podcast for 14 years. He can talk from the position of, I don't have to be afraid of anything. He was even saying, and this is, I know privilege has become sort of a loaded, weaponized word, but he comes from a place of so many successes that he can say on here right now, he can say, if I know my intent was cool, I don't care what anybody thinks, which is great for him. But I would say that right now in the current climate, people's intent does not end up mattering.
Oh, that's what makes it all go away. Because you just say like, listen, well, that's not how I meant it. And then they'll say like, well, that's how I took it. Well, I'm sorry you took it that way. But like, or they're going to tell you what, they know how you, like they're in your head more than you are. You know what I mean? It's just like, everybody has the ability to do this. And that the whole thing that I'm sitting there going like, I'm not afraid of this stuff. I'm absolutely afraid of it. It's insanity. It's insanity to.
You don't sound afraid of it. You do not sound afraid of it.
Well, I mean, what the fuck am I going to do? You're going to sit there with your knees against your chest? I just do what I do. And then that's it. But, I mean, I had a friend of mine, they tried to get rid of this person because of an analogy. It's gotten to that point. An analogy? It's just like, I feel, I got to be honest with you guys. I kind of think that it's going to, what really needs to happen is, I think what gives it strength is corporations and how they don't want to see one nickel roll out the window in advertising dollars. And these people who try to cancel people know that, so they go after the advertising. And then the corporations, just how they don't have any loyalty, they don't care about anybody, so they would just as soon throw you out, to save a nickel and just bring in somebody else to run their yap, and they don't care. So it's kind of, if you just kind of look at their strategy, it's like people that they get offended by, you got to have like a certain level of being known. They're not going to waste their time hitching their trailer to what? Who said what? Okay. And then you have advertising is another big thing. I've kind of noticed, because there's a bunch of guys like that people fucking hated, and they used to always talk about them. And then they got booted from their shows, and then they have their own podcast now. And I don't hear anybody complaining about them. It's it's like, I imagine they're still saying the exact same things. It's like, so all you wanted to do was get them off the network. Like, and I don't know. The whole thing is just, it's a really unfortunate thing. And I feel bad for younger comics or anybody trying to come up, and you're basically a human being and you're not allowed to make mistakes. You're not allowed. I mean, how many fucking mistakes I made here? I didn't even know you were Cuban. I've been watching you forever.
Bert, to answer your question, because would that have, I don't feel like that would have changed anything about what you said, though, whether you
It wouldn't have.
We interrupted.
I was going, you fucking white guys always black. Bert's like, he's Cuban. I'm like, oh, that's right. Unless your dad's standing next to you, I forget. But doesn't that mean I'm woke, man? I don't see color, man.
That is why my dad was next to me, because ESPN was under indexing with Hispanics, and I'm Dan specifically because my parents didn't want to name me Luis or Gonzalo because they were afraid of what I would encounter in this country.
Those are two killer names too, man. You missed out. You would have had at least another 30% of pussy in your life.
Best Cuban name ever is Guillermo.
Then Dan. Dan's got to work for it.